היי, שלום, קוראים לי נטע, ברוכים הבאים לפסטיבל הסרטים בחיפה, ה-37, שמתקיים בין ה-18 ל-29 בספטמבר בחופשת סוכות. אני פה עם הבמאי של הסרט What do we see when we look at the sky, שהוא זמין גם אונליין וגם בפסטיבל באופן פיזי. השיחה שאני עומדת לקיים או עומדת להתקיים באנגלית ויכולה להכיל ספוילרים, אז שימו לב ואנחנו כבר מתחילים. Hello, my name is Neda. I'm looking forward to talking to Alexander Cobrizze, director of What Do We See When We Look at the Sky, which has been selected to be in Berlinale. So Alexander, welcome to Haifa Film Festival. It's very, very, very great to meet you and my pleasure to congratulate you on your beautiful film.
Thank you. And I mean, it's sad that I can't be there, but I'm happy for the film that it can travel to Haifa, and thank you for showing it.
So, first of all, can you tell me just in a few words, your own words, what the film is about?
Oh, that's the hardest question, especially for this film, because I never had like a short concept what it is about. Even when there was a script, when we started shooting, it changed a lot and grew, and at some point it became something which part of it was planned, but there are things which were never planned. So I think there are many things or many subjects, but still for me, in the first place, it's a fairy tale. Yes, about, I don't know, about people and about the city as me and the people I made the film together with, as we see it today.
Yeah, it's fairy tale mostly. I mean, even the short narrative that is going back and forward is about the man and the woman getting cursed, and they don't look alike the next day and can meet each other.
Yes.
Yeah, you like the very simplicity of the very large movie. And so how did you even get inspired or get started of making this film? Because for me, it's mostly a film that it's a portrait of a place or an environment, this fairy tale, not focusing specifically on like the one narrative, but rather even the camera gazing upon trees and people and objects and dogs and before circling back to the main story.
The basic idea for me, like a few years ago, when I was thinking what kind of films I want to make, I thought I want to make few fairy tales, and this one is one of them. So it was clear for me that I want to have a story where there is a place for things which are not common, kind of magic. And then there was the script, which is kind of, I don't know, I during this time when I started to think about fairy tales, I gave it some time. I read a lot in fairy tales of Georgian, but also from around the world. So now it's a bit hard to remember for me if I really read this kind of thing somewhere, or is it like something which I made out, or I think it's more a kind of mix of this kind of fairy tale-ish thinking, maybe. When you give yourself a freedom to think, about the world where everything can happen.
And basically it's a love story, a fairy tale about a love story, and it involves much more than a man and a woman. It involves the love of football, the love of cinema, the love of dogs even. And I was wondering, why did you choose to place the film surrounding those themes? How they're related to you?
I don't know, I think it's like a general thing, because me, as many people around me, and I think around the world, are feeling today, or the world around us is pretty hard, and it's very natural to be angry and disappointed and even hopeless, maybe, because the things are going on and we don't have any tools to do anything against it. But still, I thought, if you're making something, if you're proposing something, at least at this time, this moment in my life, I wanted to concentrate about the things which are precious for me, and which give me energy and somehow interest to move on, and to base on these things and to see the world through these things, because otherwise it becomes too hard, which is also kind of course, maybe more reality, but I'm not sure if what is more real. So at this time, I just decided to see the world through this kind of things.
And the football, it comes from your world, something that you know and love?
Yes, football. On one hand, it's my personal passion.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, on the other hand, I think it's also very interesting to, as a phenomenon, as a modern myth or modern joy of so many people, where you have heroes and tragedies and very long dramatic stories of some persons, and it's also very interesting in a cinematic way, because it's just interesting to film people, for example, who watch football or who play football, because there are these huge emotions which are there. So it's an interesting thing to observe.
Yeah, and also the way that you shoot it or show it in the film. I mean, even in the beginning, you see the football game, and then you zoom into the locker room, but you don't show them. You show like the corner that they throw the shirts, and it happens all over the movie. So, what was your approach towards the look and the feel of the movie? Because sometimes it doesn't feel like it's fiction, rather than like placing people in an environment.
I think there are quite different approaches to how we were shooting the film, and I think one of the reasons is that while making storyboard, we started it with a quite fixed idea how we want to have the film, and the beginning of the film, also the sequence you described, is quite in the beginning, where we were still following this kind of filmmaking, very concentrated, and when you have very chosen parts of reality, and kind of very concentrated on some parts. But then, while working on it, or even on the storyboard, the feeling how the film should be started to change, and it was kind of a natural decision not to stay in this concept of which you had in the beginning, but just to follow the feeling where it will lead us. And then it started to change. So there are very different styles, I think, mixed. But it was kind of a natural flow of making the film. It's very depending also on what kind of films, for example, we were watching with the cinematographer during the preparations. I think if we watched some film in the evening and the next day we were making storyboards, it had something from the films from the evening, and it was happening every day like this.
And even from your answer, you can say that the film is not a traditional one. It doesn't have a clear plot or something that you can hold on to, and the plot sometimes feel like it serves more than to resolve the narrative. It just moving away from it and then coming back, because you see people and you see buildings and you see all those stuff in between. And even talking about the stray dogs where they want to go to see the football. And I was wondering, how did you develop this approach towards narrative or plots in your films?
It was more like we had the story and the script, but also we had given ourselves the freedom to look for places, for spaces in between this kind of dramatical narrative stories, which I think me and also the others were less interested. Like it was kind of more interesting, or at least even interesting for us to have these free spaces where we were able to shoot what's going on around us or going on in the places we like, rather than the story, because for me it's one of the most boring things while making a film to shoot scenes which have this information, which are there to tell the story, which is in the script, because then they have this kind of purpose, and they are there not because I want it, but they are there because they have to be there, because the spectator has to understand what is going on. So that's how a film is growing, because you have parts, you have to somehow tell the story, so you need some pictures, and then you decide to have more space for stuff which you really like. I'm not saying that there's other things. Of course, then you try to shoot the things which have this kind of informational purpose, also in a way that it gets interesting for you and for the viewer. But still, the more purposeless the picture, the more interesting it is sometimes.
And there's, of course, the cinema, which was for me the best part, the film within the film. It's while you're watching the film, I was wondering, why do you see it? Why do we need it? Why do we see the producer and the director and the photographer going around and casting living couples? And by the end, that we actually saw what they were filming, and the couple standing next to each other through the eyes of cinema. And the original couple, the one that doesn't look the same anymore, that's the only time that they got to be themselves again. And so in personal, for me, I think, and maybe for you, maybe the cinema is the key element for seeing the truth, or maybe magic over time that breaks the curse that started the beginning of the movie. So I wanted to see what you feel about it. Like you said, open time that the movie takes place in.
One of the things I was not sure about while writing was how to get rid, how the characters can get rid of the curse, because there was also, of course, a possibility to have, because now we have kind of a happy end, at least in some way, and there was a possibility to that it doesn't happen, and that there is no hope for them. But at some point, pretty early, I decided that they have to find each other. At least we have to have a possibility to think it's possible. And then I started to think about what can be helped, like in this kind of situation, which is not easy, because if you start to think in a kind of realistic way, if something like this happens to you, what would you do? Like, it's really hard, because there is, I don't know, who would you call or who can help you? It's there are not so many people today who, especially in modern cities, I don't know, I think I think there are still places around the world where at least someone would try to do something with you, but at least in the place where I live, I don't know who I would call. And so it was not easy to find a way to get rid of this curse. And I thought that to get rid of the magic, you should use also some kind of magic. And I think cinema is kind of a modern magic. It's kind of pathetic to say that cinema is a magical thing, but at least when I watch some films of the filmmakers who I like, there are always some parts which are magical, because I mean, I'm not saying I'm a professional, but I don't know, I studied cinema for a few years, and I made a film, and I watched many films. And there are still films which I don't understand how they work. They seem super simple, but they make something which you don't understand how they do it. So I think, okay, maybe that's the kind of magic. And maybe the people who are doing these films are modern magicians. So that was the way to get to the cinema in this way.
I think you chose the right magic. And so before our time is up, is there anything you would like to say to the movie's audience in the festival, or what would you like them to take away home with them from the movie after watching it?
I don't know. I think, is it like this video is before the film or after the film?
After, but you can also watch it, I think, separately.
I don't know. I think everything I had to say and even more is in the film already. I was surprised when I saw the finished film, because there are things which I never thought about, and somehow, I don't know how, but these things are in the film, the things which I agree and which are interesting for me. So I think everyone has to see his or her own film.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna say goodbye to the audience, and then we're gonna say goodbye again. תודה שהצטרפתם אלינו. אתם מוזמנים כמובן לראות הסרט אונליין או בפסטיבל באופן פיזי. הפסטיבל מתקיים בין ה-19 ל-28, ממש אוטוטו בספטמבר. הסרט זמין לכם לצפייה. So thank you so much for taking the time talking to me, and I hope the next time we'll talk will be face to face in Israel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.